Hello, everybody. In today's episode, Nick Conley from Nicklaus Landscaping in California joins us to share his story from the very humble roots of starting out a family. And when he started out his family, there were, tough times and, baby on the way and all of that. And the next thing you know, he's starting a company and all the trials and tribulations that went with that decision and exactly how he kept faith in his heart throughout that entire journey in order to pull him to where he is now. It's a true rags to riches story, and you're going to love it. So tune in and enjoy. Hello, and welcome to Outer Spaces, a podcast dedicated to empowering designers and contractors in the outdoor living space. Through this show, I hope to create a powerful resource for you, someone who is trying to grow their company but might not have all the tools and processes to do so. On Outer Spaces, we're passionate about breaking the chains of small mindsets and helping contractors just like you take control of their businesses and their lives. My name is Joshua Gillow, and through my 25 years of dirt under the nails experience, I look forward to sharing tips, strategies, and other contractor success stories here on the Outer Spaces podcast. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome back to the Outer Spaces podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow, and this episode today is sponsored by Yes Express, where we help landscapers, hardscapers, and outdoor living pros double their sales in half the time. If you're curious, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you and see if we can help you. So today, we have a special guest on our podcast, and this happens to be the brother of the last person you listened to. So figure we bring on the family. You get to hear the other side of this. So we'll see if she was just telling us stories or not, which I'm sure she isn't. But anyway, so this is the owner of Nicklaus Landscaping in California, Nick Conley. What's going on, Nick?
How's it going, Joshua? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. I'm excited to have you on here. And we had Haley on last week, and it was great to hear her story and how she fits into the business model and how, her story and her journey along the way. And I'd love to hear from your side. She mentioned you a lot. She has a ton of respect for you. And I'd love to hear, your side of the story as well. And before we get into all the details, I'd love to find out how you actually became part of this outdoor living world, if it's something that was part of your wiring or whether it's something new for you. So start us back in the beginning and work us up to where we are now.
So I've been in the kind of construction trades most of my life. My dad was a plumber. So I helped him all through high school. Out of high school, I got a job doing excavation work, running heavy equipment for a summer. After that, I worked for the United States Forestry Service for another 2 summers after that. And basically, I just liked working with my hands and working outdoors. I made a move to California, and that's when I first started doing landscaping with my uncle, who owns a fairly high-end maintenance landscape maintenance company in the Napa Valley here in California. And so I did that for about 5 years. We did a few installation projects here and there, but it was mostly maintenance. From there, that's kind of that job is when I kind of realized, like, okay, this is something that I like doing. I'm outside, I'm working with my hands, things like that. And so that's kind of what got me started. All through high school, I would rake leaves for extra money, mow lawns, do things like that. So I guess, when I think about it, I've been in the landscaping industry for quite a while. But my first official job was when I was about 21, working with my uncle doing maintenance. And even then, when, his business was growing, and he actually asked me once, he's like, hey, I'm probably going to be starting 2 crews. We're probably going to have an install crew and a maintenance crew. Which crew would you rather be a part of? And I immediately said the install crew. And so from the start, I knew I wanted to build things and not just trim plants.
Yeah. No, I hear you, dude. It sounds like my story too. I love building cool shit. It's the sky's the limit. So let's get our hands in it and figure it out. I love that. So, exactly. So you worked with him. When did you decide to start your own, practice?
So I worked with him for about 5 years, and then I actually, from there, I went and worked for a church. I got hired as the music director, and I did that for about 3 or 4 years. During that time, I did my own kind of side, just gardening type stuff and just little walkways and things like that for people on the weekends. And then from there we made a move. And when I got to this new town, I was looking for landscape jobs, and there was no one really paying what I needed to provide for my family. And this whole transition is kind of drives me today as an owner, because I spent months looking for a position for a landscape company, and I went from making 20, 21 an hour to now offering, applying to these other companies and basically saying like, I've got enough experience. I could run a crew, I could be your project manager, your field ops manager. And so I'm calling these people, and I have my resume, and they're all calling me saying, man, you're overqualified, or you're asking too much. Our lead guys right now are getting paid like 16, 17 an hour. And I'm like, how do you expect a guy with that kind of experience who has years in the trade, who most likely has a family, like how can you only be paying him 16, 17 bucks an hour, because he's got to provide for his family. Right. And so
100%.
So like the third or fourth interview that I was told that, after that in my head, I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to start my own thing, because I need to be able to support my family, and this pay that these guys are offering is just not enough. And so that's what got me into into deciding that I want to start my own gig.
That's an incredible story. And, it's so true. When you start looking at things at that time, what did, when you say supporting your family, were you married? Did you have kids? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So when we moved, we had just had our first child. We've been married for 11 years now. And at this point we were married for 5, and we had a 1-year-old, and my wife was pregnant and was due in 2 months. And so our first two are 14 months apart. And so right at that time is when I decided to start my own company, because we're about to have kid number 2. And I needed to find a job right away. At that point, I was working at a hardware store making minimum wage, and then doing stuff on the side. But that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to get serious. I'm actually going to start this business and stop doing things on the side. I'm going to get my license, and really, dive head first into this.
Dude, I love that. Now walk me through. Okay. So let me just make sure I have this right. So married for a bunch of years, have roughly a 1-year-old at home. Wife is pregnant, ready to give birth in 2 months. And you're like, hey, I'm going to start a business. Right. So walk me through how that was in the beginning, because I know at that point, it'd probably be the worst case or the worst time to bring something on your wife that way. So walk me through how that was in the beginning, and what kind of faith you needed in order to take that journey to bet on you. I mean, that's powerful. So walk me through that.
Yeah. I mean, everything I've done has been just in faith, right? That I'm being called to do what I'm being called to do, and it's going to work out. And so, it was hard. We were living in a 2-bedroom apartment. We were getting assistance from the state with food because of the kids. I was working at a hardware store, like I said, making minimum wage. Our meal budget was like $50 a week. And so we were just kind of scooting by, right. And, I wasn't going to, that's when I started to look for those other jobs, and they weren't going to pay me what I really needed. And so basically I'm looking at staying where I'm at in this apartment, and now we have another kid, and we're just barely scraping by. I mean, we're like eating beans and rice, really, to going, okay, how am I going to get us out of this and create a better life for my family and my kids? Like, what's my best option? And oftentimes our best option isn't the easiest one, right? And so to decide that, okay, I'm going to start a business, like that's not an easy thing to do, because now I'm like, hey, what do I do? Like I have a truck and no money to go buy tools, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I can see far enough ahead that I know the skills I have. And I know God is with me in this. And so with those two things, the sky's the limit. And so we just jumped in. I kept my job at the hardware store to keep that money coming in. And then all the extra time that I had on the weekends or after work, I would just go do side jobs. The area that we live in, there's not a lot of the people that are here don't have a huge online presence. And so I immediately started social media, Facebook, Instagram. I got a website, I just, every extra dollar that we had, I invested into the business to get my name out there, posting on all the different Facebook groups. I just hit that really hard. I took a ton of before and after pictures. I answered my phone when people would call me, or I would call them back the same day. Like that one thing was huge. Like people would go, "Oh, I can't believe you answered your phone," or "I can't believe you called me back. We've called 5 other guys and no one has ever called us back." And so that right there kind of got the snowball effect going. And I saved up enough money to go buy like $150 lawnmower, started mowing people's lawns. And, my background was in plant care. So I did a lot of fruit tree pruning, a lot of rose pruning, and things like that. And so I used my skill to kind of get my name out there, which was in maintenance. And then, so that's what got, that's kind of that story, the beginning of it.
That's crazy, man. I mean, it's craziest time of your life, and you just got to walk in faith. And, I happened, when I was doing a little research on you before I have you on here, I found one of your quotes that you have. I believe it's on your Facebook profile, but it says, "I am a Christ following, family oriented entrepreneur that loves helping others succeed." Man, I freaking love that, dude. It's so important, and it's coming out right now. So walk me through how you developed the faith that it took to walk this journey, especially at a time of your life when you should be doing anything that would be easier than starting a business with a family and all of that. Like, walk me through how you developed that.
At the end of the day, everything was fine. Whether what happened was what we wanted or not, at the end of the day, everything was fine. And I've seen that all through my life. And so for me, at the, basically it's that whole, you got to think about what's the worst that can happen. Okay. That's going to happen. Then what? You move on and go to the next thing. And so in my mind, I'm like, hey, I'm going to start the business. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't take off. And I'm still working at this hardware store, and we're eating, we're here, we woke up today. I'm still breathing. I'm blessed. I have a beautiful family. And so that right there, it's like, for me, with that mindset, you're not scared anymore. Fear, I think, is what holds people back. And if you're looking at what the work that you need to do now, because you want to make your life better, or you want to move forward in something, as long as you don't have that fear, then nothing's going to stop you. You're just going to keep going. Right. And so I think for me, I don't think I can put my finger on any one thing that put that mindset into me. I think I've just kind of naturally had it throughout my life, which,
yes,
that's lucky me, but that's kind of,
you say it's luck, but luck tends to favor the bold, right?
Yeah,
that's powerful, dude. And you're so right. So many of the things that we worry about as humans, as husbands, wives, fathers, sons, brothers, whatever, 99% of the stuff that we worry about never comes true. Yet we still give it space in our minds. It's part of the old wiring, if you will, the reptilian brain, that we worry about all these things that could happen. And they seem to take up more space in our mind than they should, right? So when we realize and think back, this is an exercise that, on your journey was that as well. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? what if I succeed instead of what if I fail? So what if you spin that? That's a totally different thing. But you look back and think about all the things you worried about yesterday, Nick. Just think about not you personally, but listeners out there. Think about all the stuff you worried about yesterday. All those things that you were afraid were going to happen. A client was going to call mad, or this wasn't going to get done, or somebody's going to get hurt, or something like that, right? Write a list out of all those things that you worried about yesterday, actively worried about, and then put a line through all the ones that didn't happen. And I can almost guarantee you that 95 or more % of that list never came true. Right. And when I realized that, to your point, when I realized that, I'm like, then why the hell am I paying interest on a debt I don't have?
Exactly.
Right. That's what worry is paying interest on a debt you don't have. Why would you do that? You would never spend money and just throw it in your mailbox every month and just let the mailman pick it up for no debt you've ever had. But that's what you do when you worry.
Exactly.
All that conscious time that you could be thinking about working on your business or being a better husband or father or wife or whatever, you know what I mean, mother, all that time is wasted because of something that we think is necessary and important, but doesn't ever turn out to find any value. Have you found that to be the truth as well?
Totally. I go through it. I mean, it's still, it's not that I don't struggle with it. You still, you still worry about stuff. This last week, for instance, we have an issue going on with a client, and it's so easy to get stuck in what's going on with the issue when there's really nothing I can do about it. And so, because if I, last night, for instance, it was one of those days, and it was hard for me to shut off what happened at night, and it affected my interactions with the family. It's like I wasn't really there because I let that control me. Yeah. And so going to bed last night, I'm like, geez, and so at the end of the day, I try to, like, when I'm leaving the job or I'm leaving work, I try to decompress. I like to drive in my truck and just turn the music on, or I leave it silent and just get everything out and kind of talk, self-talk my way through, like, okay, this happened. There's nothing I can do about it. And so let's move on. And
I love that, dude. Yeah. It's so important. And, you're getting to as you're growing in the business and all that, when you're at work, you have a certain, let's just say a certain, person you're playing, right? You're playing the boss, you're playing the entrepreneur, the visionary, all of that. Like that's one superhero that you're playing. But you can't, when you come home, you've got to leave that at the door, and you've got to walk in being the husband and father that, God created you to be. And it's what the hard part about owning business is, since we have phones in our pockets and they're so easy to get to, and they have so many other features on them that we can easily have them close to us, because we might want to take a picture of our kids, or we might want to see what the weather's going to be. And there the text pops up, and then immediately it sours your evening, because now you're back into, Superman mode out on the job site when you're with your family. And trust me, we all struggle with this. I struggle with this too. So it's really trying to balance all that out, but knowing that each of those experiences that happen, that we have the opportunity. I like to say that we're the electricians of our lives, because we get to wire meaning to all of it. Yep. Right. So if somebody calls and says, I'm not happy with this project, the big thing that you got to watch, stand at the gate of your mind and watch, is what are you saying about that? What meaning are you wiring to that event? Are you saying, oh crap, there's another example of that, I'm not good enough, that the client doesn't like me, they're going to write me a bad review? Like, is that the reaction you're getting? If it is, you better be watchful of that. Or is it, oh, well, can't make everybody happy, we'll do our best tomorrow? And you let it go at that point, right? So how are you wiring it? Is it personal, or are you just saying it's something that's happening, like you were mentioning, like some things just happen that are out of your control and you can't personalize it, even though we want to? It's naturally wired into us to do that, thinking that we failed. Not that it was something that happened outside that may not have worked out or might not have worked out the way you wanted it to, but you don't personalize it. That's the hardest thing, because that personalization and taking that stuff home with you, that starts fights, that starts you disconnected from your family, that starts all of those things. But who made the decision to do that?
Yeah, you did.
We do. We have the control over that, guys listening, girls listening. We have control over what meaning we apply to that. So be careful when those things come up. If you feel them come up, stop for a second and analyze it. Say, why do I feel that way? Why am I taking this personal? It wasn't personal. She just didn't like the color of the boulders. It's okay. It's not that she's saying, I hate Joshua and I hate the boulders too. She just happens to see you as a conduit to a solution. So she comes to you. So it's just understanding that it's not you personally. That's a huge piece. And I've had to grow through my, growing businesses that way. It was a tough lesson. Once you learn that, dude, you become, invincible when it comes to conversations with people who you're like, I'm not taking it personal. And if you feel it becoming personal, you know what I mean, Nick, when you say you feel it coming personal, right? When you feel it, you stop and you say, wait a minute, why is that starting to feel personal? There's no way I possibly could have been on that job site at that moment when they moved the skid of stone to the side and ended up busting up her hydrangea bush. Like, there's no way I could have done it. So don't blame me for it. I just need to talk to the guys so we're more careful in the future.
Yep.
That's it. That's the only wiring. You're not a failure. You don't have like a bad system in place. You just got to talk because we're all human.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's
probably it's important to be careful of that.
Yeah. That's really hard to do. I definitely was,
but it's a muscle.
I definitely was the guy that took things personally at first. And it took me a few years of going through, because it just takes going through those issues. And then, but you have to have the wherewithal to realize what you're doing to yourself and how you have control over of what it is. Because at the end of the day, you're letting those things affect you, like you said, right? And so it's having that wherewithal and that mindset of always trying to better yourself. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to catch those types of things, and they're just going to eat you up and spit you out. And so that whole journey for me started like 2 years ago. I was to the point where I was almost going to stop the business because I was being overwhelmed by everything, by client things, just being too much work. Not knowing how to handle everything. It was affecting me personally. And when I finally said, okay, I need some help. Like, I don't want to give up. Like, I told myself, I'm going to do this for 5 years, because so many people say, if a business makes it 5 years, then you're doing good. Right. And so I told myself when I started, I'm going to, no matter what happens, I'm going to at least take the 5 years, to get this thing going. And so year 3, it was going great, but I started getting overwhelmed. I was letting things I was just taking everything personally. And that's when I started the whole kind of mindset journey is, okay, how I need help, basically. It's like everything, I'm not doing everything right. I don't know what I'm doing. I think so many guys in the trade, like, we just kind of go, we're going to start a business, and we have never ran a business before. We just have a skill, and we think we can go and start a business. And so I finally got to the point where it's like, well, I need some help. I need to surround myself with people who have been through this and made it on the other side, so that I can learn from them and not have to make all those same mistakes. And at that point is when I started to actually work on the whole, not letting things, not taking things personal, and everything else that goes with actually running a company and not just being an operator in a business.
I love it, dude. So walk me through that process, how you went. Obviously, you're like, look, I'm frustrated because I've gone through the same thing, right? So that was a lot of my journey as well. I thought I could do it all myself. And I'm like, I'm not paying anybody to teach me shit. I can go out and learn it myself, right? That was just how I was, right? I was like, do it yourself, or I can do this stuff. I don't need help. But I got to a certain level where to your point, exhaustion and just overwhelm. And I'm like, how do I get past this point? I've hit this glass ceiling. And for me, it was about $1 million in revenue. When I hit that ceiling, I was like, how? I see other people doing it. How come I can't do it? And then the self-talk starts going where, you're not designed for this. This isn't your journey. You're not good enough for this. You're never going to get there, right? All of that kind of stuff sets in. And then I realized that the reason why I couldn't get through is because I wanted to be an island. I wanted to do it all myself and be that stoic hero. And the reality is, business is a communal game. Business is a tribe. You need to have, as you mentioned, people around you that are doing what you want way ahead of you that you can listen, talk to, and figure out how to get there too. And you're like, oh, wow, cool. So eventually hiring coaches and all that stuff. So I want to get on your journey there. When you first decided I need help, what was the next steps you did?
So I think my first step was probably what most of the guys listening and in our trade do, is they go to Facebook and post on a group. Hey guys, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? And then you get 100 different comments of what you should be doing and how you're an idiot and why didn't you think of this and but I finally, after a couple of those posts, I had one guy, all he said was, you need to call Jim Wirtz. And I was like, okay.
Nice.
And so I called Jim Wirtz, and that conversation I had with him basically was him saying, I know exactly where you're at. I've been there. I've gone through all these issues, and this is why I do what I do now is I help guys like you who are ready to do the things that are necessary to get yourself out of these issues. Cause that's a key too. You got to be ready. And then start to coach you through the process of stepping out, making the transition from being basically like, even though you own a business, you're basically working for the company, right? Because you're doing everything. You're in the field, you're doing all the work all day. You get home at night, you got to make the phone calls, you got to do the estimates. The business owns you. You don't own the business. And so that's where, so I had a phone call with Jim, and I was like, okay, let's do it, because I'm not going to make it another year if I don't change something. And so I hired Jim as my first coach, and he helped me just from, step one was, you need to create a few more hours in the day during the day so that you're not doing it at home at night to work on the business. So that was really hard for me because I didn't want to let go of the daily tasks of building, because I was like a control freak and I wanted everything to be done right. But he helped me realize that when I first started, I didn't do everything right. And the way we learn oftentimes is to make mistakes. And so I need to be able to be okay with training a foreman, basically someone to take my position out in the field. I need to be okay with letting them make mistakes. Like, mistakes are going to happen. You have to be okay with it, because that's how they're going to learn. And so he helped me through that. And once I got over that hurdle, the floodgates opened, and I started to be able to work on the business and start working on all the different systems and processes and everything that it takes to create a company that will eventually run for you, instead of you running for it.
Dude, no, I love that. And Jim's spot on with that. Jim's a great guy. So, I mean, he's spot on with that piece. It's so important to do exactly that. And that took me a long time to realize as well, because you know how it is, Nick, and you, I'm sure, experience this when you're running a business and you're out in the field, or you're doing the books, or you're doing the estimates, or you're doing the sales presentations. You're like, I'm a badass at this. Like, I'm good at this. Everything that the business has done so far is because I'm good at this, right? And your identity starts becoming part of that, right? Like, I need to do this or we don't grow. And then someone comes in and says, all right, Nick, guess what? You can't do that anymore. And you got to sit there and watch why they make mistakes. Yeah. It's like, that is the most painful thought ever, right? To think, I'm going to wait and watch it. And I'm going to lose money. I'm going to lose time. The clients are going to hate me. The whole what if scenarios start all over again, right? But the craziest part is, Nick, and you tell me if you've experienced this, once I finally let go and said, nope, I want to own a business, not a job. And I realized there's going to be some pain in that transition. Once I started putting the teams together and seeing them take over, they did it so much better than me. I had to stop and sit back and be like, they're so much more talented than I am at this. But that took a little bit of ego kick, a little kick in the ego for that one to happen. But you sit back and you're like, holy crap. What else could I do like this, right? Have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's the key, is to surround yourself and hire people who are better than you at everything. And so that's where Haley came into play.
For sure. We interrupt this podcast to drop a sales nugget on your lap. Today, we're going to talk about budget. One of the biggest things that people have the most uncomfortable time talking to their clients about that, or the clients don't want to talk to you about it. So one thing here, a little nugget I'm going to drop on you today, is the concept of budget. So if a client does give you a number, say Mrs. Jones says, I've got $5,000, or I have $50,000, or I have $100,000 to invest in this project, your next question needs to be, what do you hope that will cover? And then be silent, or STFU. just be silent and let them speak, because they're going to now articulate exactly what they're hoping that investment will buy them. And then from there, you can make a decision as the salesperson or the company owner to say, you know what, that sounds reasonable. I think we can fit all that into that budget. Or this is absolutely absurd. There's no way a $5,000 budget gets you a pool deck and patio. With that question, you let them answer it. Do not try to fill it in. What do you hope that will cover? Try that the next time your client gives you a budget, and you're going to be amazed by the kind of questions and answers and conversations that happen after that. But do you ever feel like you're going to be kind of kicked out of the club, if you will, or unnecessary if you have people that are better than you around?
I mean, at first, yeah, because at first, yes, but I went into this like during those first few months of dealing with Jim, I came to the realization that I don't want the business to rely on me, because if it does, anything can happen to us today, tomorrow. And if I'm not around and I've created this business that relies on me, and something happens to me, then the business is going to fall apart. Yeah. And not only is that going to affect my family, it's going to affect everyone working for me and their family. They're going to lose their job because I was the crutch of the business. And if something happens to me and I'm gone, now the business is gone. And so I'm doing a disservice to everybody who's relying on that business by not setting it up to work without me, if that makes sense. I want to create this business that even if I'm not here, it's going to still provide for my family, and it's going to still provide a great place for my employees to love where they work and also provide a living wage for their family, which, to bring it full circle, is part of the reason I enjoying doing what I'm doing now, is because I get to pay my guys a living wage, unlike what I was being offered from the other companies around me. And so I'm being known as, if you want it to be able to have a good job, a great place to work, and make good money, then come work for us. And that's what I offer all my guys, because I want them to be able to enjoy what they're doing and provide for their family. And so if I'm not creating this business to survive without me, then I'm not doing anybody any favors.
Dude, I love that. You are so spot on with that. It's incredible. Your focus and your heart's in the right spot. So my big question for you, and I'm sure listeners are thinking, that's great, Nick, you can afford to pay your guys more. How do you possibly come up with the extra money to pay these guys a living wage when everyone else is paying them less?
For me, it's basically, it starts with our customer service. And so from our first phone call, it's all about the customer. We've created the systems and processes to, when people call us, they instantly know that we're different. From that first conversation that they have with us, we are different. We are offering a premium service, and that allows me to charge premium prices for our projects. And that in turn then allows me to pay a higher price for my guys. I'm also not greedy. Like, I'm not in this to pinch every penny and become a millionaire. I'm in this to enjoy what I do each and every day and keep a roof over my family's head and food on the table, you know? Like that, at the end of the day, that's all I want. And so, if that means, you know, if me not making $1 million every year, because I paid my guys a living wage, like, I'm 100% okay with that, you know?
Yeah. That's really cool, dude. I love that. And you're right, because you have to differentiate yourself up front when it comes to your offering to people. Because if you look like a commodity, if you're out there and people are calling around for a paver patio or an outdoor living space or a deck or whatever it might be, and you're like, all right, so how big do you want it? And when do you want it? And I'll be out tomorrow. Right. And that's what everybody is saying. Then you're not going to differentiate yourself. They're going to lump you in with the rest of those knuckleheads that are going to do it for a much cheaper price and barely pay their guys and probably not even be profitable. Right. Yeah. So having a conversation, deeper conversation up front is the biggest thing. Because when you do get deeper and you start getting into that why for the client and what's the bigger driver, it's not just because they want a new patio and spend money on stones in their backyard. They don't just want a new deck so they can walk out and look around at the neighbors. They're doing it for an emotional driver, a bigger why. And we got to figure out what that is first, right? Yeah. We got to get deeper into that so that we can connect with a client on a level that they haven't been connected with yet. And when you do that, you differentiate yourself. You automatically bring higher value to the table. Have you found that to be true, Nick?
Oh yeah, totally. I think the sales process that we learned through Yes Express really helped us in that regard, because we were the whole, we kind of let the quality of our builds kind of speak for us. And we were the whole, I was the guy running around to every single job, talking to people. And, I wasted so much time and money doing that. And it wasn't until we implemented the sales process that we learned through Yes Express to kind of be that filter. So it's, for us, it served us two purposes. It's allowed us to, from our first two phone calls, step out ahead of our competition, because we're actually having these phone calls and asking these questions that clients are like, whoa, I've never been asked that question when I've talked to a contractor. What do you mean you can't come out? Well, it's because we want to get to know you first, and we want to find out what it is that you actually want, and and people are kind of blown away at that. And the ones that kind of go, no, I just want you to come out, well, then they're not the right fit for us. And now that just saved us a bunch of time and a bunch of money. But the ones that are okay with the phone call end up like loving our whole process even more before they've even met with us in person. So it's kind of a win-win situation there. We're getting the clients that we want, and then those clients in turn really see how different we are and the quality that we give, and they're willing to pay that higher price tag. And I think in our industry, that's huge, because there's so many guys out there who don't know their numbers and don't know what it takes to actually run the business and aren't pricing things correctly. And so that's hard for us it's hard for us as guys and companies that know what it costs to run the company and know our numbers. It's hard for us to compete with people like that. And so we have to do everything that we can to set ourselves apart. And, those first two phone calls from that sales system has been a real key to that for us.
No, I love it. And it's so true, because if a client feels it's the same as somebody else, you're a commodity. That's just what it is. And, if you're competing as a contractor, if you're on Facebook asking, well, what's your square foot price, and what's your square foot price, or how much you charge per linear this or that? How can you possibly answer that when you don't know what the overhead structure is? You don't know what their pay rates are. You don't know you don't know any of those things, right? So if you're out there listening and you don't know that, then get over to Wes at Synced Up and get those things figured out. Because once you have them figured out, it's going to be so much simpler for you. You're going to go into your clients' meetings full confidence. And when they ask you for discounts, you'll be like, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. One of the three levers, right? You're going to do some sweat equity. You're going to change scope. You're going to change materials. Which one are we going to do here? It's the prices right now, right? It's the only way it's going to work. But I know, because I've been through in the first years, I didn't know numbers at all, dude. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't know the phone call thing. I said, dude, out of 7 billion, 8 billion people on the planet, they called me, Nick. They called me. I'm not going to put any kind of resistance between me and them. They might get mad at me. They might not hire me. I'm just going to go out and give them whatever they ask for. And then they start asking for more and more, and then discounts. And then, can you do this for free? And, I got some extra stones over here. Can you use those for free? And pretty soon it just becomes very much a win-lose, where you're in the losing position and your client wins, which is great for them, but you won't be in business long with that mentality, right? So it's important to make sure you're in the right arena with the right people, for sure. So important. So I know that you guys are going through a bit of a
funny story in regards to.
Yeah, no, I know you guys are going through a transition now at Nicklaus Landscaping. You want to walk us through where you were, what your focus was, and where the future of the business is right now, or where you're going to push it?
Yeah, so Nicklaus Landscaping, that's the name that I chose right off the bat, because it was the easiest one to start to operate under legally, because it has my name. So because it has my name in it, I didn't have to go through all the paperwork of doing a S Corp and things of that nature here in California. And so, but now that we've transitioned to fully design build, when people hear I'm a landscaper, they immediately think, oh, can you come clean up my yard? Can you come mow my lawn? Can you do this and that? And then I tell them, well, no, actually, we don't do that at all. We build decks and patios and outdoor living spaces, and we do designs. And they're like, oh, wow, that's more like construction. Well, yeah, it's landscape construction. And so I've been fighting this back and forth if I should keep my name or not, because you can keep your name and just brand around it, which is totally fine. And people do that. There's plenty of successful design build companies that have landscaping in their name. And so I've been going back and forth for about 3 years, whether I'm going to change my name or not. And this is probably the third time that I've said, okay, I'm actually doing it. And then I'm like, oh no, I won't. But now I'm doing it. We've already bought the new website domain, and we have the steps in place to actually do it. And so the reason behind doing it is if I need to, basically I need to brand something, and I don't really want to brand around the term landscaping because there's already so many preconceived notions of that term and what people in the landscaping industry do, at least here in California. Most landscapers are your guy with a truck and a lawnmower. Everyone, if you ask, 20 people what a landscaper is, 19 of them are going to tell you that. One of them might say the things that we do, like we build decks. Like everyone's so surprised that we build decks. And so I decided that we're going to make that name change, and we're going to brand around, at the end of the day, you have to brand and market yourself. And so I want to do it around a name that doesn't have a bunch of preconceived notions about it already.
Dude, I love that that you're aware of that, because I know that was something that in the very beginning when I started Master Plan, it was Master Plan Landscape Design. I said, everything is in the title. It's perfect. But the word landscaping was in there, right? And then people are like, oh, do you just do flower beds? Can you lay out my flower bed stuff? And I'm like, sure, if it's part of, a bigger outdoor living, world, a bigger design. And, they didn't understand, and you can't blame them, right? People just don't know. It's a nuance within the industry, and outdoor living sounds like patio furniture. And it's not something that's really trending or really, going viral yet. We're getting there, right? This is a journey. This is a mission, right? There's so many of us out there, you and myself, and I'm sure tens of thousands of others that are sick and tired of being called landscapers, even though it's not anything wrong with the industry. It's that we're not landscapers, right? We don't mow lawns. I don't do maintenance, like none of that stuff. We're construction. But if you say landscape construction, then you don't design. So landscape design and construction, oh, you just do bushes. It's like this weird, I don't know, this little like purgatory we're stuck in, right? But that's why we're forging forward with outdoor living as our target. That's our keywords that we want. So that if you're an outdoor living design build professional, if you're doing outdoor living, you're building really cool stuff. And it includes decks and patios and landscaping and lighting and sound systems and pools and spas and structures and like all this stuff, like bringing all those comforts of inside out. But when you're building a brand new market segment like this, you're going to have years of lag before the world knows. But it's amazing people like yourself and so many other in our industry that are bringing the awareness to the fact that we call that outdoor living. And hopefully in my lifetime, that'll make an entire switch. It's one of my missions, is to make sure that landscaping stays with the landscapers and outdoor living comes with us, because that is truly the difference. And differentiating it with a new name and everything is going to be extremely powerful. When we did that, I don't know, probably 6 years ago with the Master Plan Outdoor Living, it was a big jump of faith. I remember working on the logo, and you can ask Becky. She, God bless her heart, for almost a year, I fought back and forth in my head for what I wanted in that logo. And because I wanted it so stupid simple, but I wanted to represent things. And I was traveling at that point, blessed to travel around the world and see different things. And I found something I thought would be really cool. It was actually in New Zealand. And I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. And then I adjusted it, and I'm like, this is going to be what we're going to do. And ever since then, I never looked back, and I'm like, I love it. And the whole world, but sometimes there's that conversation that needs to happen with your clients. Like, what is outdoor living? What are you doing? They don't know. So now it's a matter of education. And that's what's important about having a process of communication for your clients, so that they get to understand your journey and how you're different than others. So yeah, Nick, the word landscaper, it's been something that's always kind of rubbed me wrong because it's not what we do. We do something totally different. And that's the important part. So how are you helping your clients understand that at this point with this transition happening and all that?
Yeah. So we haven't really put out the transition yet, but right now in our phone calls, when, in that first initial call, we're explaining to people who call us what exactly it is that we do. So we are design, build, outdoor living. We do decks, patios, and everything around those. And so that's how, we're using that term outdoor living or hardscaping. And we're not using the word landscaper when people call us. And so even if they don't use us, we're still getting that out there to everybody that calls us to help spread that knowledge. So then when they, if they decide that they want an outdoor living space later, they'll know who to call, right? Who to call back.
Exactly.
And so basically, yeah, just educating people, I think. Every person that calls us, and then people that I talk to on a daily basis, I try to use those terms. In California, we have a state license. We have a contractor's license. It's a C27. It's for landscapers. They call it the landscaping contractor's license. But what we can do here under that license is so much more than landscaping. Like, you can almost build a house. Like, you can build a pool house. It just can't be considered a residence. You have to have half a kitchen and a half a bath with a shower on the outside. But we can do all of it, and who would ever think a landscaper is going to build a huge pool house? And so even here, the state's not helping us at all, but nobody knows that. And so I think education is key.
It is, especially when we're making this transition, to the public, when they're starting to understand it. Because when they just think they're going to hire a landscaper, they immediately think, all right, well, they can't be that expensive. They push mowers all day long, right? And they're like, well, wait a minute here. Have you seen my overhead? Have you seen all the trucks and guys and equipment and the hundreds of thousands of dollars I have sunk into this? And so it's an expectation, right, Nick? It's setting the expectation. And again, that's the ultimate mission, is to push more of that concept of outdoor living. So people are like, holy moly, of course I'm going to pay, because it's not easy to run those companies. They've got a lot of overhead. Like, this is a construction company. You wouldn't go to your contractor and be like, hey, can you do it for less because you swing a hammer? They realize it's trucks and equipment and tons of knowledge and education that comes with that hammer. That is the important part that they see the extra value in. But it's going to be, it's going to be a journey, but the thing is that we're not alone, right? There's, like I said, tens, if not hundreds of thousands out there that want the same thing for our industry. And together we can all rise. We can all have this conversation. We can all start with this, these words that we're using. If you don't want to be a landscaper anymore and you hate being lumped into that and feel like you're being pushed down in a way, and you want to be brought up and treated like a doctor or a lawyer or a professional, you say outdoor living, you might have to explain it a little bit, but you're going to get that higher value from the client because it's like, wow, tell me more about that. What does that mean? And next thing you know, you're talking about all these extra things that you do. And you're like, wow, holy moly, you do the design all the way through the construction of everything, and you manage it. You do permits. You do everything for me. They don't even know this exists. So we see it every single day. And we're like, well, don't you know that? And the thing is, our clients don't know that. They're like, I didn't even know that existed. Landscapers don't go get permits, but we do. Right. So it's like, it's going to be a little bumpy and a little gray for a while, but I know together as an industry, we're going to pull through this, and we're going to be like, you know what, man, like 10 years we'll look back and be like, remember when landscaper used to be a problem word? Now people know exactly what that is, and they know what outdoor living is, but it takes time. All of that takes time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm excited to see how our trade's going to just morph and mold and really get the, respect that it deserves, at least in the outdoor living side of things.
100%.
You're totally right. I think we're looked down upon and go, oh, you're just a little lawnmower guy. You don't have any skill. But I think the reality is, like, I have a bunch of builder friends, and their overhead isn't half of what mine is, because I've got $100,000 in tractors sitting out there. And, not including all the different saws and table saw, there's so much more that we have to use to work with concrete and things like that. And so, at the end of the day, I feel like, there's no reason why the landscaping trade, the outdoor living trade, can't be one of those top trades like you would view a custom kitchen remodeler, you know?
Yep. 100% do. But the difference is you can't talk like a landscaper and communicate like a landscaper in the outdoor living world. It doesn't work. You know, if you're selling $2,000 to $5,000 or $10,000, even $15,000 projects, you can do that with just about any basic high school education. Right? You can do that. But when you start getting into higher numbers, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, $500,000 projects, that same teaching, those same skills need to be enhanced significantly in order to be able to have that conversation with those clients. So you don't lose your shirt and or waste your time, because they're smart. They know, you know, that you can bullshit for so long before they realize that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So building those skills, investing in yourself, hiring coaches, going out and buying programs to learn things is the best thing you can do for yourself if you really want to grow. If you just want to make enough money to get by and just pay the bills, then don't just shut this podcast off and disappear. The point is that if you want more of life, you're going to have to become more.
Yep.
That's the secret to it all. You can't just sit here and wait and hope that big job's going to come in and you're going to all of a sudden make all this money, and that's going to make all the difference. Because newsflash, I was there before many times. And I will tell you that once that big job comes in and you get the check, and then a few months later, you spend all the money on expenses and all that stuff, and you're back to square one looking for the next one, you become an addict. And when you become an addict to these projects just to keep, you know, all the cash flow moving to pay bills, to pay payroll, all that kind of stuff, and pay all the equipment, you start getting burned out.
Yep.
So the reality is, if you need to constantly be building you are the greatest asset of your entire company. You need to constantly be investing in yourself, whether if you do it for free and read books, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, something. If you go to events, I learn best through experiences. That's why I love experiential events and teaching that way, because I learn and it sticks for me. But that's been a secret, you know, is to constantly keep building yourself, because this business you have now is only as good as you are. You can't point fingers as an owner. You need to invest in yourself and build yourself so the business can build with you. It only happens at the same rate.
Yep, exactly. I totally agree.
Yeah. So Nick, anything else any other little nuggets of wisdom you want to drop on our guests here as they're listening that's helped you in your journey?
Yeah, I mean, with that last section that you just said, you know, you can only be as good as who you are personally. I think I've resonated with a lot this last 2 years. And I think COVID kind of wiped a lot of people out. Like for us as business owners, it was great for our industry. But I've been hearing this from more people that because of everything that happened, and I saw it in myself, it just was a little bit overwhelming and just kind of, I don't know if it's demoralizing, it was a weight, right? We all felt it. It was just a heavy time. And I noticed in myself where I just kind of got a little lazy. You know, I kind of lost the fire to grow. And so I realized it a few months back that we just had a lot of just things happening in the business. And I just wasn't, I don't know. It's almost like I was just walking through my days with the deer in the headlights look, you know, and I just kind of got stagnant. I didn't have a lot of great habits. I was just kind of had the blinders on, just running through life. And that being like that is not helpful for you and for us personally, you know, for anybody.
Yep.
But also as a business owner, we need to be constantly getting better each and every day, not only in our craft and our skills, but also as human beings. And so for me, it's so important to have those daily habits that we do that just help you just be a more intentional human being. And in doing that and growing yourself and being a better communicator, being more intentional with your morning and evening routines and setting proper priorities, that's only going to benefit you as you seek to run your business and to grow your business, because it takes intentionality to grow your business. And if you're not intentional in your personal life, how can you expect to be intentional and grow your business and deal with clients and learn how to deal with clients and employees and all those types of things. And so I think more people are starting to talk about it, but I think, there was so much good that came out of COVID for our industry. But I think personally, a lot of people took a lot of hits. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize it now because I'm seeing more and more guys talk about it. And I've seen it in myself. I just finished 75 hard. That was like a huge, just like restart for me. And so I feel like I'm like snapped out of the fog that I've been in for that the whole country's been in for the last 2 years. And I'm ready to go, I'm ready to see what the future holds for us.
I love that, dude. I love that your mindset's in the right place, and you're absolutely right, dude. When you set up those rituals and habits and you stick with them, those disciplines, man, everything changes. And that's a whole nother podcast, brother. I could keep you on for another hour and talk about that side, but we'll let our people go here. So Nick, how can people find you if they want to reach out and hear more about your story or anything like that?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram, Nicklaus Landscaping, on Facebook, Nicklaus Landscaping. Those are probably the two best. You can message us through our website at nicklauslandscaping.com, which will soon be changing to ncoutdoors.com.
Nice.
But
could you spell Nicklaus just so everyone has it right?
Nicklaus.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's awesome. 2
syllables, Nicklaus, not Nicholas,
Perfect.
Not Nicklaus, Nicklaus.
You probably heard it all, haven't you?
Heard it all.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, I appreciate you spending your most precious asset with us, your time, and telling us your story. I certainly appreciate it, and I've learned a lot along the way. And listeners out there, if you found value listening to Nick's story, share it. Get it out to your friends. And I know we all struggle in this industry in one way or the other. And if we can all unite together and work with each other and help each other out, we can all grow and win. And win-win is the only game. So anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you back next week.
Thanks, Joshua.